picture the sheer tension for a second. We're talking 6 weeks of absolutely relentless war. Thousands of missiles have already been fired, just painting the skies with destruction. The world's oil supply effectively blocked, and that's sending shockwaves through literally every market on Earth. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at a moment where the entire globe just held its breath. The United States and Iran were mere hours away from resuming full-scale, devastating attacks. I mean, the stakes literally could not be higher. It was a true geopolitical cliff edge. So 6 weeks into this thing, the reality was just grim. The global economy was choking, and we were standing right on the precipice of a full-blown global catastrophe. The countdown clock to unimaginable destruction was ticking down to its final hours. But then, a phone call changed everything. And the most fascinating part of the whole shebang? That midnight call didn't come from Washington, it didn't come from Moscow, and it definitely didn't come from Beijing.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the answer to that question is one that caught the entire world completely by surprise. The unlikely mediator who stepped right into this volatile void to pull these massive adversaries back from the brink was Islamabad, Pakistan. Part 1, the unlikely peacemaker. Let's look at how this actually happened. Well, it comes down to the geopolitical mechanics, right? Pakistan possessed this really unique triangulation of trust, something literally no other nation on Earth had during this crisis. On one hand, they have these deep, historic, and religious ties with Iran. At the exact same time, they're a long-time established ally of the US. And crucially, they're a very close partner to Saudi Arabia, who is obviously Iran's biggest rival. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif recognized this incredible leverage. He saw that his country was basically the only one holding the trust of all three major players. So seeing this, he immediately stepped up and offered Islamabad as neutral ground. To put the physical reality of that relationship into perspective, just think about the number 900. That's the number of kilometers of border that Pakistan shares with Iran. We aren't talking about some distant, across-the-globe diplomacy here. This is immediate, next-door geography. It visually grounds exactly why Islamabad has such a vested interest and deep understanding of Tehran's perspective, which, made them a uniquely credible voice in the room. Part 2, securing the ceasefire. Getting everyone to the table was no small feat. Let's rewind to early April to look at the brutal stalemate happening on the battlefield. Iran's military was heavily damaged, and the vital Strait of Hormuz was completely blocked. But Iran wasn't broken, and for the US, a clean military victory was absolutely not guaranteed. While this stalemate dragged on, Pakistani officials were doing this relentless shuttle diplomacy, flying back and forth between Tehran, Washington, and Riyadh, exhausting behind-the-scenes backchannel stuff. But then, disaster almost hit. Right in the middle of these delicate talks, Iran launched a strike on a Saudi petrochemical facility. The Saudis were furious. The backchannels nearly collapsed entirely. It took a frantic, massive overnight diplomatic push by Pakistan, literally hours before US forces were set to resume attacks, to save the whole thing from total ruin. And then, out of nowhere, came this incredible announcement. On April 8, 2026, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif posted this exact message on X. He wrote, "The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America, along with their allies, have agreed to an immediate ceasefire, everywhere, including Lebanon, effective immediately." Just let the weight of those words sink in for a second. The shooting stopped. The world finally exhaled. But, as we know, pausing the war was just step one. Now they had to figure out the actual logistics of peace. Which brings us to part 3, the Islamabad summit. This is where those abstract back-channel talks became very, very real. You have to picture the sheer scale of the security operation on the ground in Pakistan on April 9th and 10th. Islamabad completely locked down. The government declared public holidays, schools were shuttered, the streets went quiet. And right at the center of it all was the Serena Hotel, located in the highly fortified Red Zone. For those 2 days, this heavily secured building became the temporary center of the entire world. And they absolutely needed that lockdown because, get this, 300. The US negotiating team alone consisted of 300 members. They flew into Islamabad, led by Vice President J.D. Vance, ready to sit down and meet face-to-face with the Iranian negotiators. The logistical and diplomatic magnitude of this happening in that region was just unprecedented. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the 4 massive hurdles they were staring down. Number 1, securing freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. 2, dealing with Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
3, the incredibly complex web of reconstruction and lifting sanctions, and 4, actually forging a long-term peace agreement. Oh, and it's also worth noting Pakistan wasn't entirely alone here. Qatar pledged its crucial support following a Miami meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Qatar's Prime Minister. But of course, part 4, when diplomacy breaks down. Because achieving lasting peace is almost never a straight line, right? The initial relief of the ceasefire faded incredibly fast. The deadlock was immediate. Pakistan put forward this framework, a 45-day, two-phase ceasefire. Simple enough, but Iran flat out rejected it. Instead, they slapped down their own 10-point peace plan. So now you've got two completely conflicting documents on the table, and almost instantly, all that incredible momentum Pakistan had built up just stalled out. Things snowballed rapidly from there. By April 13th, the U.S. imposed a naval blockade on Iranian ports. Naturally, Iran immediately called this a blatant violation of the ceasefire. Tensions went through the roof, and planned diplomatic visits just started falling apart. In a desperate bid to hold the fragile peace together, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi actually rushed back to Islamabad for emergency meetings with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar and Field Marshal Qasem Munir. Meanwhile, political pressure was skyrocketing on all sides. A perfect illustration of this is this Truth Social post from Donald Trump, stating, "If they want to talk, all they have to do is call." And following that exact sentiment, a highly anticipated visit to Pakistan by U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner completely canceled. The ceasefire was officially on life support. So where does that leave us? Part 5, a fragile future. Let's look at where things stand as of May 2026. So the crucial point is this: the ceasefire technically holds. Violations definitely still occur, for sure. The Strait of Hormuz is partially reopened, but it's still dangerous and ship traffic is way below normal. Plus, that U.S. naval blockade is firmly in place, so no, a full peace agreement hasn't been signed. But, and we can't understate this, the guns have largely stopped. Thousands of lives have been saved, and the global economy has finally gotten a desperate, much-needed breather. Now, when you look at what Pakistan actually pulled off here, you really have to weigh it against their domestic reality. On one side, you have a country of 240 million people dealing with a severely struggling economy, a tense border war with Afghanistan, and a crippling energy crisis. It's a lot. Yet despite all of those immense domestic hurdles, look at the achievement. They successfully facilitated direct talks between the world's most bitter adversaries right in their own capital. It really is a monumental feat of diplomacy. Which brings us to a final, really provocative question. It turns out, quiet midnight phone calls really do change the course of history. Pakistan basically proved that you don't necessarily have to be a global superpower to hit pause on a world-ending conflict. You just have to be trusted. So, looking at the fragile peace we have right now, I want you to think about this. Did Pakistan deserve more credit for pulling the world back from the brink? Let that sink in as you consider the incredible power of targeted, strategic diplomacy.